You do not need permission to know it. You need recognition. And recognition cannot be sold, licensed, or controlled by an institution. So, the institution did the only thing it could. It made the map disappear. But the map survived, hidden in jars, buried in cliffs, memorized by communities who passed the names down in whispers across generations. And when the Nag Hammadi library was unearthed in 1945 by a farmer named Muhammad al-Saman, who was digging for fertilizer near a limestone cliff in Upper Egypt, what he pulled out of that sealed jar was the most complete Gnostic library ever recovered. 52 texts, 13 leather-bound codices, including the Apocryphon of John in not one but 3 separate copies, each independently preserved, each containing the full hierarchy of the 30 aeons. The Church could erase the names from the canon. It could not erase them from the earth. And now we arrive at the question that breaks the seal. Why was Sophia the one who fell? Of all 30 eons, why the youngest, why the last, why her? The answer is hidden inside a word almost no translator preserves. The word is epinoia. It means insight or first thought or the spark of divine intuition that precedes any decision. The Apocryphon of John says Sophia carried more epinoia than any other aeon. She was the closest to the boundary of the pleroma, the most sensitive, the most curious, the most attuned to what existed beyond the edge. And one day that sensitivity turned into something dangerous. She began to wonder if she could behold the monad directly, without Barbello, without her partner, without the sacred order. And the moment that thought formed, the cosmos as you know it began to be born. What happened next is the part the Church did not just erase. They inverted it. They took Sophia's act and rewrote it as the fall of man. They took her tears and turned them into Eve's shame. They took the catastrophe that produced this material world and blamed the woman in the garden. But the original text says something the canonical Genesis cannot afford to say. Sophia did not fall because she sinned. She fell because she loved too much. She loved the monad with a hunger no boundary could contain, and what fell out of that love became everything you can see, touch, and suffer. When Sophia alone attempted to behold the monad directly, something the pleroma had never produced came into being. The Apocryphon of John describes it with brutal precision. From her solitary act, without her partner, without the sacred yoking, an offspring emerged. But this offspring was not like the other aeons. It was deformed, incomplete, lacking the light that only sacred union could transmit. And Sophia, seeing what she had produced, was horrified. She cast it away from the pleroma into the regions below, and she hid it in a cloud so that none of the other aeons would see what her isolation had birthed. She named it Yaldabaoth, and here is where every comfortable assumption about the universe collapses. Yaldabaoth, this misshapen, lightless offspring of Sophia's solitary reaching, awoke in the darkness outside the pleroma. He saw nothing above him, because the cloud Sophia had wrapped around him obscured his view of his mother and the fullness. And in that blindness he made a declaration that the Gnostic texts say became the foundation of every false religion ever built. He said, "I am God, and there is no other God beside me." The line is almost word for word identical to passages in Isaiah and Exodus. And the Gnostics understood this not as the voice of the true God, but as the voice of a deluded craftsman who did not know what existed above him. They called him the Demiurge. And they said this Demiurge, believing himself supreme, began to build a world, your world, the one you live in. He created 12 archons, then 7 heavens, then a counterfeit atom molded from matter and animated by a stolen spark of Sophia's light that he could neither understand nor control. And every system of control you have ever encountered, every institution that demands obedience without understanding, every religion that confuses fear with reverence, every voice in your head that says, "You are not enough," the Gnostics traced all of it back to this one source, not to evil, not to Satan, to a blind craftsman who mistook his own ignorance for divinity. And the most haunting line in the entire Apocryphon is this: When Yaldabaoth made his proclamation of supremacy, his mother Sophia heard him from above, and she wept, because she recognized her own catastrophe in his voice. Now, before I reveal the final piece, I want to speak to those of you who have stayed until this moment. You have watched video after video on this channel. You have felt Sophia pulling. You have recognized the signs. And you know somewhere beneath thought that scattered fragments will never be enough. The ancient code was built for exactly this moment. It is the complete Gnostic initiation. I spent months assembling 5 suppressed masterclasses that were never meant for a public platform. The Ancient Code Dossier, a printable manual you can study away from any screen, and the Gnostic Meditation audio series that activates what the teachings reveal. The total perceived value of everything inside is over $280. Today's access is 67, and 11 seekers have already entered. This is not for those who want more content. This is for those who want the complete path. The link is in the pinned comment and description, or scan the QR code on your screen right now. And now, let me give you the final revelation, because this is what ties everything together. What ties everything together is a single insight that almost no commentary on Gnosticism dares to state plainly. Sophia's fall was not the end of the story. It was the beginning of the rescue. The moment Yaldabaoth proclaimed himself supreme, the pleroma above did not abandon her. The monad, through Barbello, through the entire hierarchy of 30 aeons, set into motion a recovery operation that has been running for what the texts call countless ages. And every spark of light still trapped inside human consciousness is part of that operation. You are not a soul that fell. You are a fragment of Sophia's light that the pleroma is actively retrieving. And the gnosis you feel pulling at you, the inexplicable hunger to know what existed before names, is the monad calling its own light home through you. There is one final revelation, and it is the one that changes how you stand inside your own body for the rest of your life. The Gnostics taught that the monad, the reality above Sophia, above Barbello, above all 30 aeons, has a quality that no canonical text preserves. The Apocryphon of John calls it self-knowledge. The monad knows itself, and in knowing itself, it knows every spark of light that ever emerged from its self-beholding, no matter how many layers of forgetfulness, no matter how many archons, no matter how many false names have been pressed onto that light. The monad does not search for you. The monad recognizes you. And the moment you orient your attention toward it, even without words, even without doctrine, even without belonging to any tradition, the recognition is already mutual. The monad has been remembering you the entire time you forgot. This is why Sophia, even in her catastrophe, never lost contact with the source. This is why the light inside Yaldabaoth's counterfeit atom could never be extinguished, no matter how many systems of control were built around it. This is why every authentic mystic, in every tradition, eventually arrives at the same unspeakable encounter, not with a God who judges, not with a king on a throne, but with a stillness that knew them before their first breath and will know them after their last. The monad is not a doctrine. The monad is the precondition for the existence of doctrine. And the name the canonical Gospels erased was not erased because it was false. It was erased because it could not be owned. And what cannot be owned cannot be sold by an institution that depends on selling salvation back to you. So here is what you do with this. The Gnostic path does not ask you to believe. It asks you to remember. To turn your attention, even for a few seconds a day, toward the reality that has no form, no boundary, no name, and notice that something inside you responds. That responding thing is not your mind. It is not your emotion. It is the spark Sophia carried with her into the deepest layer of matter, and the monad has been waiting, patient beyond time, for that spark to turn its face upward. When it does, the entire architecture of the pleroma orients toward you, not metaphorically, structurally, because the recovery operation that began the moment Sophia fell was always a recovery of you. You are not separate from the cosmic story. You are the cosmic story compressed into a single life on a single planet, asking the question that the church spent 2,000 years trying to make you forget. And the question is this: what existed before there was anyone to ask? What is the stillness that holds even Sophia? What is the reality that the Gospels could not name without unmaking themselves? You already know. You have always known. The name was never hidden in the manuscripts. The name was hidden inside the silence you have been avoiding your whole life. And every time you sit, even for a moment, with no thought, no demand, no prayer, no doctrine, the monad is there, not arriving, already present, already aware, already remembering. This is the foundation of everything that comes next in this series. Sophia is the door, but the door opens onto something, and that something is what we will spend the next videos uncovering, name by name, aeon by aeon, until the entire architecture stands in front of you, complete, recovered, no longer hidden. If this transmission stirred something older than your thinking, subscribe to Omniscient and stay close. The next revelation in this series enters Barbello directly, and you will not want to encounter it without the foundation you just received. And if today was the day you realize the fragments are over, the ancient code is waiting. The complete initiation. Pinned comment. I will see you in the next awakening.